in the YouTube lands. How are we all doing? Ugh. All right, let's see what we have here. Yep, go there. All right, so let's see. We have Peyton. Hi, Peyton. How's it going, buddy? How's it going, Peyton? We missed you. Traken. Hi, Traken. And Wyatt. Hi, Wyatt. How's it going, bud? I've missed you a lot. All right, everybody, welcome to our first ever Sunday night live service. Hope you guys are having an amazing time. I'm having a great time. This has been loads of fun. Been really different than what we normally do. But we are going to continue doing this for the next few weeks because we still are not having a normal Wednesday night service. So we're going to be having this for the next few Sunday nights at 6 o'clock every night. There was a little bit of technical difficulty tonight. We're new to this still, so it worked out well though. But make sure, guys, that you share this with your friends. You can share the YouTube link. You two sitting there in front of me, you can share the YouTube link. Share it with your friends. Get them to watch it. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a lot of fun. So if you've been watching our Bite Size, this is how we've been kind of keeping up with you guys. We've been going over our love-hate series. As you just saw with the video, we're talking about love, we're talking about hate, and everything that goes with that. So we've talked the last few weeks about letting love be our filter, and letting love be how we talk to people and everything like that. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit something about let love fill in the blank, okay? I wasn't entirely sure how this was going to work out. Me and my wife, Miss Jennifer, we talked about this, and we were like, I don't know how let love fill in the blank is going to work. That's such a broad topic. Like, let love be your filter, that makes sense. Let love fill in the blank, though. What blank? What kind of blank are we talking about? I was thinking maybe it's like a Mad Libs kind of blank, where it's just, anybody ever done Mad Libs? You can like put a little hand up in the chat if you've done a Mad Lib before. A Mad Lib, basically what it is it's just this long list of words, and then there'll be like a blank space, and it'll be like noun, or verb, or adjective, and you put stuff in there. I thought that's what it was like. It's kind of like that, but a little bit not. So I want to start this out by talking about malls. Now, we all know what a mall is. Malls are kind of going out of date, especially if you live here in Aiken. We don't have a mall, but I really like malls. Malls are extremely fascinating places because of, one, it is high quality, grade A, top-notch people watching. Nothing is better than sitting on a mall bench and watching people, except maybe going to a theme park and sitting on a bench there and watching people. That's a little bit better. But it's also a place where there are hundreds and hundreds of very, very different brands with completely different vibes that all sit side by side by side. You could have an American Eagle next to like a PacSun, next to a Hot Topic. So you can have stores that are very, very different in their vibe or their feel sitting side by side each other. Now, you've probably never thought about a brand itself having like, say, a vibe or a personality or a certain reputation, but they do. They have a very big reputation. Think about it. Think about the difference between, say, Nike and something like Sperry's, right? They both make shoes, but they both make vastly different shoes. Nike makes tennis shoes, athletic shoes. Sperry's makes fancy boat shoes. They're two very different companies with very different brands' reputations. Think about something like, say, American Eagle versus H&M. They're both clothing stores. They both make clothes, but you will immediately know generally whose clothes have come from like somewhere like H&M or whose clothes have come from somewhere like American Eagle, because they have brands with reputations, and when you see a brand, you think of a certain thing. And so what I think is so fascinating about that is that companies spend literally billions of dollars each year trying to control their brand reputation. They spend so much money working on their reputation, the look, the smell. You could close your eyes, and if somebody walked you into a Hollister with your eyes closed, you would know immediately you're in a Hollister because you can't breathe. Because this is a true statement. I've watched employees do this. When they put new clothes on the floor, they spray the clothes with Hollister perfume and cologne so that it smells like Hollister. So you instantly walk in and you're attacked by Hollister smell. So you could walk in blindfolded and be like, it smells like Hollister. All right, but it's things like that. So these aren't accidents, though. They do this on purpose. They do this so they can trick a part of your mind to where you think of a certain thing, you automatically think of your brand. And here's the thing. We're going to go over a few reputations. I want you to either type it in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay, but type in the chat and we'll see. Or you guys can yell it out. So I'm going to say a reputation. I want you to say what you think this reputation goes with. So 2-day or less lightning fast shipping. What do you think it is? Amazon, right. Right, 2-day or less lightning fast shipping, you automatically will think of Amazon. Or lowest prices always. What are you going to think of? Everyday low prices. Everyday low prices is Walmart. It used to be we sell for less, but everyday low prices, that is straight up Walmart all day. All right, so think of reputation, you think of the best cell phone. What pops into your brain? Samsung. Samsung. Here you go, Jennifer. The best cell phone for people who are not smart enough to build their own apps or interfaces. Apple. Apple, good job. Apple, thank you, Lauren. Free music streaming. Spotify, right. So you might think of something like Spotify or YouTube Music, free music streaming, or best chicken sandwich ever. Oh, I got a kind of depends over here. Kind of depends on what? Unpopular opinion. But here's the point, though. Companies, though, hire hundreds of people, and like I said, they spend billions of dollars trying to shape something that every one of us has, and most of us spend very little time thinking about, and that's your reputation. So our reputations are made up of all sorts of things. They bring out all kinds of assumptions about who we are or who people think we are. And even though we might not say them out loud, or I really, really hope you don't say them out loud to people. Some people might. I'm not that kind of person. We all tend to fill in the blanks about other people. So you might see somebody, and based off a reputation, you might immediately go, oh, they're fill in the blank. Hopefully you don't say that out loud to their face. If you do, that's a whole other thing. But we tend to assume that we know what to expect from that person based off of their brand or their reputation. You generally know, if you see me, that there's no telling what to expect at that moment. That is my brand and my reputation. You know, if you see Miss Heather, you're going to get a very nice, calm person. With her, that's your brand reputation. With us, that's not the brand reputation she has with me. I don't ever know what kind of Miss Heather you're going to get. She could be the calm Miss Heather, or she could be the spirit of Gracie Heather, where Gracie just kind of, I think sometimes Gracie likes to go outside, and so she just possesses Heather and just runs out there with her. All right, so but that's their reputation or their brand. And so, in other words, how we fill in the blank now determines what we expect from them next. So whether we know the person or not, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to know somebody to have a reputation or a thought about them. We know the reputation based off what we build for them in our minds. We set up a reputation in here, and once we've set up that reputation in our minds, nobody can tell us that that reputation is wrong, because we know in our brain that's exactly how it is. And this isn't just a thing for teenagers. This is a human thing. We all do this. Red and yellow, black and white, little, big, all people make assumptions and reputations about other people. But where do these assumptions come from? Where do we get these from? Well, I think they come from either one of two places. One, they come from experience. Experience means that somebody like them did something to you in the past, and then you look at that person and go, oh, they're just like Bob. I know how they're going to treat me because I was treated that way by Bob in the past, and I don't trust anybody like that. That's not happening. And so you have prejudices based off what has happened previously in your life with a totally different person. For all you know, Rob is not like Bob. But because Rob looks like Bob and talks like Bob, you've already given Rob Bob's reputation before Rob even gets to be your friend. Or insecurities. sometimes our assumptions are formed from our own insecurities. And so we're filling in a blank about a person who has something that we want or has something that we wish we had. And maybe they have the starting position on the football team, or maybe they're first chair in the band and you feel like that should be your spot, or maybe they always get the solos, or maybe they always get the nicest things, or they always get the newest things. And so you fill in the blank about them, and it kind of annoys you generally. You generally try to fill in the blanks with them and make their personality bad, because you're like, well, if they already have everything that I want, they obviously don't have a very good personality. And it makes us feel better. It makes us feel better about them having something that we don't have if we basically mar their own character. All right, so what we do is we automatically assume the worst about them, because they remind us of how far we feel from being the best. And our limited experiences and insecurities cause us to feel this way and fill in the blank and convince ourselves that we know way more about somebody than we really do. All right, and this can be a really bad problem because we don't fill in the blank generally with something nice. Generally, if we're making assumptions about people, it's something mean. It's really rude. It's generally something that's not going to be something you want to say to your face. And the ironic part is, we do it to other people, but we hate when people do it back to us. We can't stand if somebody fills in a blank or makes an assumption about us, but we have no problem at all making the same kind of assumptions about someone else. And so how do we resist the temptation to do this? I'm just seeing the comments now. Yes, ugh, Bob. Boo. Everybody just put in the chat, boo, Bob. Bob has ruined our life. We don't like Bob. All right, so how do we do this? There's actually a moment in Jesus' life where this exact same kind of thing happens, and he mirrors for us a way to help us in the Bible. That's why I love the Bible. The Bible's always great to get information from, to get stuff from in your life, and you never know where you're going to find something. It's sometimes really random when you find stuff, but it's really great always. So Jesus was in the middle of a really tense encounter with the religious people, okay? He was in this really intense part. These teachers of the law and Pharisees, they were a huge deal in the church. They were the ones who made up the laws. They were the ones who made people keep the laws. They were the religious people. They had a lot of power that they gave themselves, essentially. Nobody else gave them this power. They gave themselves this power, and nobody really questioned it. Nobody was like, yo, why are the Pharisees in charge? The Pharisees just kind of took over. And the funny thing about this is completely off topic. The funny thing about this is nobody even liked them. Like, the Jewish people themselves did not like the Pharisees. They didn't like the way that they did things. They didn't like how strict they were, but yet they never questioned they were in charge, which makes so much sense. Anyway, so Jesus comes around, and they're basically trying to get him caught up in a bad situation, because the Pharisees brand, if you say Pharisees, I want you guys to take a minute to type in the chat. If I say Pharisees, what kind of brand do you think about with the Pharisees? Yeah, what's their reputation? So what kind of reputation would you think a Pharisee has? And type that. I want to see it in the chat. Yes, Wyatt. Boo, Bob. Boo him. I promise there's just a slight delay. Judgmental, very good, yes. Pharisees can be judgmental. Pharisees can be very judgmental. You might even say self-righteous. Snobby or holier than thou know-it-alls. That's a fun one. Hypocritical. That one works good. Yeah, so they have this brand, though, of being hypocritical, judgmental, snobby know-it-alls. Just not fun people. Not people you really want to be with. Religious. So they basically, though, they tried to catch Jesus off guard with questions that they had hoped would prove he was a phony, would prove that he was a faker. They wanted him to slip up and answer something in a way that basically took away his credibility and made him look bad. And what it is, it's this woman who they caught in the act of adultery. And so it says, it's in John 8:3-6. It says, as he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. So something I want to focus on just real fast first. So it says in the text that the woman was caught in the act of adultery, in the act. I've always looked at this and been like, okay, how did they catch her in the act? Because I highly doubt she was doing this act on the streets, just in public. So it probably means that they were sitting like out a window or something, like waiting for her to do it. They're like, has she done it yet? Has she done it yet? Has she done it yet? Or they might have, again, this is all through my head. None of this is actually in the Bible. Maybe they orchestrated it themselves, because if they were that intent on trying to catch Jesus out, maybe they were like, hey, friend, we'll pay you some money and you just go with this lady, okay? Because you also notice they don't bring the guy for adultery. They just bring the woman, just the one person. And so they're just kind of sitting here at the window, and they're like, is she done? Is she going to do it yet? Is she going to go? Is she going? Are they ready? Are they ready? And then, so I just imagine all these Pharisees like this, like, okay, on the count of 3, we're going to jump out at her. Ready? 1, 2, ha! And then they catch her in the act. So, but how much do we do this as people, though? We try to catch people in the act of what we think they're going to do. So we make this reputation about them and this idea in our head of how they react to situations. And then when they react the way that we think that they're going to react, we're like, ha, I knew the whole time. I knew the whole time you had that issue. Or we orchestrate the situation ourselves to make them react the way we want to react. And then when they react the way, you go, I can't believe you did that. I just knew. I knew you were no good. Oh, gosh. Hurts my heart. No, it doesn't. You made it happen. It doesn't hurt your heart. No, don't lie. But they caught her, though, in the act of adultery. They either orchestrated it or just happened to come upon it, which I highly doubt they did. But they caught her in the act. She was literally committing this act when the Pharisees see her. So we can already assume from her standpoint, poor girl's probably really humiliated. Like, she's probably embarrassed. She's probably wishing she could die right now because she's super embarrassed about getting caught. We can already assume what she's feeling. And the thing is, the law demands that people respond to this act by throwing stones at her. Literal stones. Not sticks and stones words, but literal stones. That will, other things, sticks and stones will really break your bones. That's not, I don't understand that phrase at all. They will break your bones. So can words. Words hurt. But they catch her in the act, and then the law says that they should literally throw rocks at her, okay? And so the religious leaders want to make Jesus choose. They're basically sitting there and they're like, hey, you claim to love everybody. You claim to be the Messiah, but we caught this woman sinning. You claim to love sinners, but now you got to kill her. What you going to do? And so they're waiting because they knew that it was a trap. They knew that no matter what he said, they'd be like, ha, we gotcha. You can kill her, but then you don't love her. Or you can choose not to kill her, and then you just prove what we knew, that you're just a horrible, no good person. But here's what Jesus actually does. This is one of the coolest things. This is one of those things that when I get to heaven, I want to ask him what this meant. So it continues on in John, and it says, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up and said to the woman, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. Boom. Just got served, Pharisees. Kabam. That's what I imagine. Just imagine Jesus just being like, boom. But I still want to know what he wrote in the sand. That's just me. So I'm not sure, though, that and us, ourselves, can fully understand the tension of this moment. Because here you have these religious leaders whose brand is appearing better than everybody else, appearing faultless, appearing perfect, appearing as I keep the law and I'm above you all who are just beneath me. And then Jesus goes, you're quick to point the finger, but what do you have hiding in your closet? So Jesus is basically just destroying their brand with one little finger in the sand going, what do you have that you don't want to admit to? And that's just really great. Can you even imagine that? So everyone here, though, if you imagine that everyone in this story is guilty of something. The religious leaders and the woman both have guilt. And Jesus had a message for both of them, and it was that what is possible for your future isn't based off of your past. Not if you're a Pharisee, not if you're the woman. Both are guilty, but both are also free to go. And both can choose to leave differently than when they arrive. That's the amazing thing about Jesus and salvation, is that it's our choice. We have to choose to be different than our past. And so Jesus even challenges the woman by saying, go and sin no more. He basically tells her that she can go now, be free, not have to worry about her past, and he believed that change was possible for her. That's what's so amazing about this. It was such a Jesus sassy move that he had. I like when Jesus gets sassy in the Bible, like when he throws chairs and tables over, and when he just says things and just walks right past people and just like, stop me now. Or when he writes things in the sand for people to look at and then it's like, gotcha. So it was such a Jesus thing. He changed everything, though, at that moment because he responded in love to everyone in the situation. He didn't respond in love only to the woman and condemn the Pharisees. He didn't respond in love to the Pharisees and not the woman. He responded in love to both sets of people. All right, and it's exactly what you and I should do as well. But isn't it true, though, that if we think about how we fit into the story, generally, we're more on brand with the religious leaders? We're more on brand with the self-righteous, hypocritical, religious crowd. We fill in the blanks for other people based off their behavior of a one-time event. And so don't we tend to assume that we already know what's going to happen next in somebody's story because we've read the first few chapters? Does anybody else do that when they're reading books? Like you try to figure out what's going to happen next in the book or a movie or something? Yeah, don't treat people that way. Treat every chapter as a cliffhanger. Every chapter as their turning moment. But we think that we know what's going to happen because we know what they've already done, or we think they may have done. They might not have even done the thing that we're judging them based off of, but if we think that they've done it, that's enough proof in our minds. And so Jesus' approach in the story teaches us something different. The woman had a brand or reputation for being bad or adulterous, who everyone judged based off of something that she had done and saw her as more, but Jesus saw her as more than one thing, though. He saw her as someone with possibility in her future. And no matter what her past was, he didn't write a story about who she was because of what she had been caught doing. He didn't fill in a blank for her. He didn't make his own assumptions, even though he knew everything about her. He knew all of her secrets because he's Jesus. He's just cool that way. He knew all about her. He knew what she had done was true, but he didn't fill in any blanks for her. He saw her as a whole person. And as a whole person, he saw her as being deserving of another chance. And so Jesus proved that we are more than the assumptions or judgments that others make of us. He proved that we are worthy of forgiveness and grace and a second chance because of his love for us. And he proves that we can extend that same forgiveness, grace, and love to others as well. And I think that's part of the problem. Sometimes we ourselves put judgments or assumptions on ourselves, or we decide to live by the assumptions or judgments that others make about us. And we say, well, if they say that, then that must be true about me. Or if they think that's what I am, well, then obviously that's what I am because they think that. And so we start living a lie based off of a lie. But we don't have to base our life and our story based off the past chapters. So what if this approach was the approach that you and I started to take when forming our opinions of other people? What if instead of filling in blanks with assumptions and judgments and past wrongs or past conceived wrongs, what if we instead choose to believe that anyone could radically change? What if we believed that anyone could surprise us? Anyone could have a sudden turning moment? What if we choose to let love fill in the blank? This would change so much about how we think about other people. This would change how we treat other people. Not only that, it would change a lot about how we think of ourselves. It would change how we think of ourselves and how we think others think about us. we may wind up realizing that we're not as terrible as other people have made us out to be, or we're not as perfect as we may think we are. And what's great is when we fill in the blank with love, it helps us be love to other people. It helps us show God's love to other people and helps us see them through the way that God sees them, okay? So here's how it works. When we fill in the blank with judgment or hate, we're only seeing seeing their actions. We're only seeing whatever it was that they did or what it is that we don't like about them. But when we fill in the blanks with love, we're seeing them as human. We're seeing them more than what they have or haven't done for us or to us, but as an individual, as a person whose story isn't over and whose story isn't even fully written yet. And so when opportunities for assumptions and judgments start to come at you, maybe take these steps instead with a new approach. So 1, stop and think about how others have filled in the blanks about you. All right, so when you make an assumption about someone, stop for a second and think about how they are or what they'll do. Stop and think about your own life. How have people underestimated you? How have they judged you? How have you experienced the other side of someone filling in a blank about you? How did that make you feel about yourself or about that person? And then instead of making your own assumptions, treat that person as wanted to be treated, as the way that Jesus treated people, as the ways Jesus treated you, with grace and love, assuming that their best days can and are ahead of them. All right. And 2, think about how you've wrongly filled in the blanks about someone else. Think about it now. You don't have to type it in the chat. You don't have to say it out loud. But who is somebody that you think you knew, you thought you knew everything about, but you really didn't? You filled in the blanks for them in a negative way based off of preconceived issues or preconceived things that they've done or that somebody else has done. And you learned eventually that those preconceived notions or preconceived ideas you had about them weren't true at all, and you were just filling in blanks based off of assumptions or judgments. And so instead of doing that, what if we choose to let love fill in the blank for what we think about someone now and what we expect of them in the future? Okay, so here's where it gets a little personal, because everybody does this. Everybody does this. We all need to ease up on our assumptions and judgments, like I've been talking about for the last few minutes. But when it comes to church and church people, getting this right is even more important, because maybe you've assumed something like, they don't belong here. They don't really fit in with our vibe. Or I don't belong here. Or they'll never change. They're just faking it. That's not real. Or something like, people like that always mess up. Or you see somebody come into the sanctuary and you go, what are they doing here? Or say somebody asks you to go say hi to the new person, and you're like, I don't want to go say hi to them because they look a little weird, and I already know what they're going to be like, and it's a waste of my time. I don't need to do that. But here's the thing, statements like those are easy to make, but the problem is they take the Christ out of Christianity. There's no Jesus in those statements, and they shouldn't have any place in your mind or in the church, because that's not what we're called to be. Jesus makes it so clear that all that you need to do is let love fill in the blank. Is that he makes it so clear that there's always hope for change for somebody. All right, and so we can be people who let love fill in the blank about others, and when we do this, we will be people known for our love of others, just like Jesus was, and just like Jesus intended for his people to be. So as we end our little live stream today, I'm so happy that you guys again joined us. What I want to do is I want to pray for you guys wherever you are, wherever you're watching, maybe on the couch, maybe on your bed, maybe at your computer desk, in your jammies. I don't know how you watch them, but wherever you are watching, what we're going to do is I want to pray for you guys that you start to let love fill in the blank in your life, that you start looking through eyes of love for people instead of looking through eyes of assumption. So just wherever you are, guys, if you would just bow your heads, close your eyes wherever you are. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I'm so thankful for this opportunity, as always, to come before these people and to present your word, God. And I pray that you would just begin to touch them wherever they are, Lord. that you would begin to help them see through eyes of love like you do, that you would begin to help them let love fill in the blank for people that they interact with, that instead of filling in the blank with judgments or assumptions or preconceived notions, that they would fill in the blank with love, God, just the way that you do with us, that they would start to see people the way that you do as humans, as beings who are deserving of love, who have a future and have a purpose, and people who are not defined by their past, but instead have the possibility to change. And I just pray that you would continue to be with them, speak to them, God, continue to speak to them during this time as we go through quarantine until we're able to be back together. And I pray that you would just continue to comfort them wherever they are. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. We will do this every Sunday for the foreseeable future at 6 o'clock. It's about a 3-minute delay on YouTube, but we'll see you there at 6 o'clock. As always, guys, thank you for tuning in. We will catch you next time. We will be here again Saturday with a new bite size. So we'll do a bite size of this one so you can watch it in case you missed it. And as always, guys, make sure to like it and share it with your friends so they can watch it as well. We'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. It's going to be live for like a few moments. So I'm going to walk off now.